Got you.
Right. All right, coaches. Good morning. This is Coach Gibbs in the lab. I'm pleased to be joined by the running backs coach, Presbyterian College, Coach Linney. Coach, thanks for taking the time. We worked through some issues, but we're football coaches and we learn how to adapt.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate you for having me on your platform, man. It's truly an honor.
This is good stuff. So, got to pay the bills first, Coach. I want to thank Custom Playbooks, Coach Danny Budd at Coach Bud FB on Twitter. Does all my slides for all my clinics, all for my defensive installs, and the coordinator podcast. Make sure you guys check them out. They'll be tagged in this post, and both up and coming. Coach Bud's been doing some good work for a long time. But Coach, enough of that. Let's talk about your coaching journey, where you've been, and then we'll get into some inside zones, some duos, and some running back run reads and some progression. So, Coach, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. First and foremost, like I said, man, it's truly an honor to be here on the Maddie Clinic. Just to being able to do this on this platform is truly an honor. Like I said, and grateful to you, Coach Gibbs. But I started my journey in high school. I got out of Old Dominion University in 2017 and started coaching. Got in Rock Ridge High School and then coached there for 2 years. Cut my teeth on the defensive side of the ball. Was working varsity and freshman levels, and then decided to pursue an opportunity in college. I knew I always wanted to be a college coach, and that was something that was near and dear to my heart. So kind of did what every other coach did in around the country, sending emails, finding connections, and trying to figure out where I could get my feet planted and being able to blossom. So for me, I cut my teeth in my first college job at Independence Community College under Coach Kiyoshi Harris. And then from there, went to Tyler Junior College and coached running backs. Kind of propelled that from out of the JUCO landscape into Division II. Got an opportunity to go coach under Al Johnson, who's now the line coach at Temple, as a tight end coach, and got my master's degree at East Central. Proud alum there. And then parlayed that actually into the opportunity to be able to coach running backs in Missouri Southern with my current head coach, who was the offensive coordinator, Matt Rawl. And so did that, spent the time there, and then went from there. Got opportunity to actually learn some receiver play and actually coach some wide outs. So at Richmond University, University of Richmond. And then I was actually going to go through the season there because I was out there for the spring as a receiver analyst, and got an opportunity, and God gave me an opportunity to go be the running back coach in Norfolk State under Dawson Odom. So I spent there for 2 years. We actually, unfortunately, like any other college, was in transition into a new spot, new opportunity. And that took me to Bryan University up in Smithfield, Rhode Island, under Coach Merritt and Chris Merritt, excuse me. And then now back with Coach Rawl here at Presbyterian College. So been a journey. Grateful. Learned a lot and through my short time coaching, and love talking running back play and love coaching it. So
Coach, yeah, like I said, it's. I always like to give you guys time to talk about it because I think in today's world, and I'm sure you can attest to this, there's a lot of guys that just want to have stuff happen to them now.
yeah,
And I call it like the Google generation. Like it's like I was a position coach for 1 year. Now I'm ready to be a coordinator.
yeah,
And for you to talk about like being a high school coach first and just progressively growing in the profession. Obviously, you were on the dark side first. You went to the offense. We're okay with that. But it's really impressive. And the relationships you build, right? Your head coach you're working for now, you worked with prior, and you guys obviously have a good relationship, work well together, and he saw a lot in you to bring you to this spot, and I think that's great. But what I'm excited to, because as a defensive guy, I always like to pick your guys' brain. Um, you know, Talking about the inside zone, the duo, the progression, the run read. So I'm excited to let it rip. And I know the coaches will be as well.
yeah, no doubt, man. And I'm gonna kind of take you guys through, what I usually talk about on the first day one install of running backs in my room. I'm a true believer in. Excuse me. in actually teaching vision. And so I believe God gives you the ability to have frontal and peripheral vision. The great ones, I always say that. But when you understand the blocking scheme and you understand who to read on defense, I believe it enhances your vision. It also gets you to play with anticipation rather than just having to react. And excuse me, from the system that I have kind of adopted from talking with guys myself and understanding their defensive fronts and everything like that to what I kind of simplified for the running back. So I always talk about executing the play. Most important thing, our job is to take care of the football and set that ball where it needs to go. And so I always tell the running backs, you always got to understand pre-snap what you can anticipate, what can happen defensively. You got to confirm it with your post-snap eyes, right? And your progression throughout the run is from your initial read to your secondary read. And we talk about that as well on every run scheme. Every run scheme has a different tempo. Every run scheme has a different run read. So we go through that from day one. How I teach vision is very simple, right? It's very simple, and I break it down in simple math, right? 1+1 = 2 gaps, right? So that means one blocker, all right, versus one defender. The ball can either hit inside or out. It's very simple, right? If you have two blockers, right, and you have two defenders, okay, it's kind of different math, but it actually equals 3, not 4. So and I tell you, the ball can hit 3 potential gaps, right? It can go inside the combination, it can split the combination, or it can go outside the combination based upon that linebacker and where he's displayed and lined up. So, I'm a true believer in teaching reading linebacker flow rather than true D lineman. I know that's a big debate in the running back room. For me, I've always been taught, and how I looked at the game was I want to understand secondary reads and third level reads, right? And so I trust my 5 that's up front. I tell my guys that all the time. All right, you got to trust those guys up front, but it's our job to set that linebacker on that combination. So very simple. We pre-snap. We always identify in 2 words, Coach. We talk about clear and we talk about cloudy. And what I did was just to understand, get those guys to understand. You would appreciate this as a defensive guy, but to get them to understand the spacing and the fits of where they're at on defense. All right. And so we always talk about, okay, is the B gap open? Is the B gap closed? Right? Where's the leverage? Where's the non-leverage side of the defense based upon, whether it's open side or it's closed side, depending on the structure that we build offensively. Right. And so as you can see, kind of taking you guys through just the basic fronts of there, in our over front, we set that tight end, obviously, on inland on the line of scrimmage, right? 3 technique is set to his side. All right. They're playing either a 7, they can play a 6, they can play a 9, right? That Mike backer is going to be sitting in that A gap. All right. We identify that as being cloudy. That means we tell ourselves backs to get ourselves to understand, right, in our minds to be able to say, hey, the defense doesn't want us to allow the ball to go bounce outside, right? They're trying to do that. Backside, we're looking pre-snap. We're saying, hey, that shade, okay, that 2-eye to a 5, that's an open B gap bubble. All right, we call that clear. And I do that personally, right? I came up with that system for me personally. And you can use any words, but for me, it's the communication, because when you're coaching kids, it's easy for me and you, Coach Gibbs, to talk and have clinic talk and coach talk, right? But you got to have communication with the player, and that's most important. Okay. And so you got to simplify things for them to be able to say, hey, Coach, I was running inside zone to the right. It was cloudy. All right. That tells me before I even get to my iPad, before I even get there, he understands what structure, where he's going. He understands what he's being played at defensively. Right. And backside, he's able to identify, okay, what they're doing, right, from a non-leverage side. And so we take our guys through that. I take my guys through the room each and every, day one install. We started in the spring. We started in the fall. We started in the wintertime when guys want to just pop in their head and talk about football, man. So, but we identify that pre-snap, clear and cloudy. And we have our rules for our 4 down and our odd front as well. When you play 2-4 eyes and trying to take away them B gaps with the nose. And we identify that as well as cloudy. And then if it moves to 2 5s outside and there's 2 open B gaps, then we'll say, hey, that's clear. But we also look at off the ball and on the ball linebackers as well. So getting them to understand that. And when it comes to fronts and structure and spacing, I think is important. But having a simplified system to be able for them to have communication with you as a coach is vital and important. So it's real simple. I'll take you through a basic, right? It was my time at Norfolk State. Again, right? We understood FAMU lined up here. They all lined up to clear to the right, right? Running back's pre-scanning. He's looking to the left. He's saying, hey, man, they're setting that 3 technique to the field. All right. Saying, hey, all right, we know it's cloudy. Okay. Because they don't want the ball outside to the field. Right. And that's just simplified and is important, like you said, going through that. Then we set our eyes on our initial read and we set our eyes when progressing to our secondary read. Again, here you can see it in the odd front. Pretty simple. As you can see, we got 4 eyes on the inside, right? They're trying to take away them B gaps, trying to take away 5 gaps with 3 guys, right? That nose being over that center, okay, 2 gapping. But as you can see, right, you got 2 eyes with Jack outside the ball, and then you have the sandbacker that's walked up, on the outside of that tackle. All right, so you can see they're trying to gap us out completely and take away everything initially at the line of scrimmage. All right, and so again, going through, like I said, simple communication, how they talk to you as a coach is imperative. I believe in your coaching to get players to understand and just being clear and concise. Now we get into block recognition, all right, and I'm a big believer in that. Okay, this is post snap, right? Understanding: are you running against a single block? Or are you running against a combination based upon what's going on? All right. Well, like we talked about, right? On a single block, I said 2 gaps. All right. Ball can either go inside or out based upon the leverage of the blocker, right? And reading that leverage of how that linebacker or defensive lineman trying to displace that single block. Huge importance to go through there, teaching guys and not enough, in my opinion, is being talked about. Block recognition and understanding. I think that's the biggest thing, getting their eyes being able to be set and knowing how to read the leverage of a block in order for them not to be able to miss holes as a back. And so as a combination, right, I talk about it all the time. Attack the open gap based upon the linebacker flow. The ball can either go in three ways. I said, hey, it can go inside the combination, it can go split the combination, or it can go outside the combination, right? On the outside of the combination. And that's all predicated on, is that linebacker on the front side of the flow, all right, or is he on the back side of the flow, all right? And I talk about that all the time. Is he on the front side of the combination, all right, or back side of the combination? And we identify those rules, all right? Either he's a fast flow, okay, if he's ahead of the combination, all right? If he's behind the combination, he's in slow flow. All right. And we talk about that, right? And 4-2 box play, for example. Okay. You get 2 linebackers that are ahead on the combination on the zone, right? We call that double fast, right? And we say that all the time. That ball's got a potential to roll back. Okay. If you got one linebacker that's on the backside, that's slow. All right. On the backside of the combination, you got one guy on the front. He shoots, on the fast side, right? Or on the front of the combination. Okay. Ball got to potentially to split. All right. Or saying it can go out the front door. If that backer chooses to play backside and shoot the backside on the fast side of the combination, ball can go out the front. Right. And so we kind of talk about that, and I'll break that down through the presentation. But I think that's imperative, right? Teaching flow of how linebackers want to play based upon the combination blocks. And again, I spend time, I'm not going to take you guys through all our O-line calls and things like that, but it's pretty universal across the board. But I think that's imperative, teaching guys, for zone, right? Since we're sticking with inside zone, what's a single combination? What's a double combination? What's a triple combination, right? On the backside, what's an A block, right? What's a B block? What's a C block? It's imperative that you teach your backs that, so that they understand how their responsibility, is to work in conjunction with that combination block. And so, and how they can set that linebacker to the combination and help their offensive line. Because I always say, we're here to assist the offensive line. They clear out so that we can cash in, right? But we make their job easier when we set our shoulders on the right plane, our track is right, and we understand flow, true linebacker flow based upon how they're playing combinations. Okay. And again, like I said, talk about the different blocking schemes throughout, right? I'm not going to go through this completely, but we know as coaches what's the zone scheme, what's a lead scheme, what's a gap scheme, what's pin and pull, right? But they're all different type of tempos. They're all different runs. They all have different schemes. But I think it's imperative that you go through that as a running back coach with your running backs, because the biggest thing that I see with a lot of high school backs is to get them to understand patience, is to get them to understand defensive fronts and structure, and also too, right, how blocks are being able to be set up and being developed. So again, talking about those different things. But again, this is how we identify, right, a linebacker in relation to the combination block assigned to the backer, right, to our plays. And like I said, if the play is going to the left on inside zone, and we'll kind of get to the film in this, right? If he's on the backside, which here, okay, he's on the backside of this combination, right? We talk about it. He's on what we call the slow side, right? He's on the slow side. So if the play's going to the left, you would assume, okay, all right, the center is going to take over this, this shade, right? Backside guard's going to come off here, okay, and he's going to work, he's going to work, all right, sorry, not the work to this linebacker, okay, that's coming off on the backside, right? And so, again, right, I said that the guard is the center here, all right, and make sure that we understand that, right? But that's just imperative, okay, that you teach that, all right? He's on the backside of the combination, he's slow, all right? This ball's got a chance to go out the front, okay? If he's on the front side of the combination, right, all right, what we call the fast side, okay, he's in front of the side combination, right? The backside linebacker, okay, he's behind, so he will be identified as being in the slow technique, right? Now, if we get true work, okay, and this guard comes off, all right, and he's able to overtake if he shoots, okay, and this tackle stays on his three, all right, and his center works, and this guard comes off, okay, all right, and he's able to take this linebacker that's in the fast flow, this ball has got a chance to split, okay, going through this gap. And I think it's important, all right, that you talk about that, all right, and getting guys to understand that, all right. Now, if they're truly double fast, all right, what we talked about, again, that means both linebackers are in front of their combination, okay, and they're playing over the top. The ball has a tendency, okay, to roll back, all right, to roll back, okay. And again, that's getting your running back to understand, all right, how the flow of the linebackers is being played based upon the combination, okay? And going through that, talking through that is imperative. Now, that's got to be married up with your steps. That's got to be married up with your footwork. Again, I always talk about on inside zone, you want to be in phase with that center, all right? Same thing on outside zone, okay, with the running back, all right, to understand, all right, put yourself on a 45-degree plane because we're an open crossover, all right, third step, okay, we're really trying to aim for that 45 degree, especially going towards that combination, right? Front side combination. Okay. We talk about that all the time to be able to say, hey, I'm creating flow. All right. And I'm helping assist, right, with the backers being set on the right combination. Okay. So that makes it easier for our offensive linemen to come off. All right, my inside zone teaching progression. Okay. Here, okay, I spend time all the time talking about it, right? I'm a big believer. Your steps, okay, and your landmark have got to be married. Okay, your steps and your landmark. Like I said, we're an drop step, all right, crossover. Okay, my third step on inside zone is really putting on that 45-degree plane, going toward my front side combination, right? I'm big on creating flow with my shoulders. Okay, not burying my eyes, getting my eyes set on my play side linebacker, which takes me to my run read, right? On inside zone, okay, how I teach inside zone is you are truly reading the front side linebacker, the backside linebacker, okay? Reason why, all right, I believe in zone schemes, you got to read front side to backside because you want to stay in sync with where the aiming point of where the offensive line is being pointed at, okay? And your eyes have got to be set towards there, all right? Again, okay, we talked about that before. Okay, if it's a play side linebacker, he's slow. Ball's got a chance. We can cram this ball back, right? A fast flow and a slow flow on the backside by a linebacker. You got a chance for the ball to split. Okay, all right. If it's double fast, the ball's got a chance to go out the back door. All right, and so I'll kind of take you guys through that film wise. But again, I think going over that completely. Again, teaching how the running back works in combination blocks is imperative, as well as imperative to be able to emphasize your steps in your run read with your eyes have got to be matched up with the same thing as your offensive line seeing. Okay, so again, all right, we'll talk about it. running outside, or excuse me, inside zone to the left here. Okay. Um, we talked about this weak zone, running it to the open side. Again, like I said, your initial read, all right, your eyes are going to start here. Okay. And you're going to work to your secondary read, which in this case, all right, we be identified post pre-snap. This will be clear. Okay, because the B gap bubble's open. Backside, we know. Okay, it's a cloudy front, so if we're rolling back, all right, a ball's got to roll back. We know potentially that 3 technique can spike through the A gap, right? Again, if that's Sam who's displaced on the backside of this in the slow flow combination, right? He can either shoot this B gap, okay? They can rock. He can shoot this here, all right, to this front side A gap, all right? But again, it's all understanding pre-snap and post-snap, confirming with our eyes. Now, all right, duo, I teach the same thing, right, for the running back. For me, I say it all the time, all right? A lot of O-line coaches say, all right, duo is a gap scheme play because you're pointing back. It's the cousin of power. I get it, right? It's power with no puller, right, to the offensive line. But to the running back, we read that as inside zone scheme, right? And I teach it as a front side to backside read when it comes to reading the linebacker flow. Okay. On duos, a little different, right? Our shoulders are now more going vertical rather than on a 45-degree plane like inside zone. Okay. Because truly it's a downhill run. We're truly trying to bait, all right, that first linebacker that's head up in the gap. We're trying to get him down into that double. I talk about it all the time with my guys. Sink that backer into the double team, okay? And again, a lot of times you'll see also too, depending on how teams line up, rather they're bossed over. Duo does have a tendency for the ball. It can roll back, all right? And I have film of that as well. But again, our first initial steps on duo, we're trying to get open step crossover. All right, we're getting downhill. Our shoulders are square rather than on a 45-degree plane like inside zone, and we're trying to sink that linebacker in the first, combination block by the O-line. All right. Now, I always talk about on the unread too. Okay, I always say gap to expand. All right, on duo. Okay, and again, all right, a ball can either roll off the A gap, off the C gap cylinder. All right, because at the end of the day, sometimes a lot of times you'll get where this gets completely washed down, especially if you got a tight end in the game. Okay, and this completely gets washed down. All right, and this ball's got a chance to roll off C-gap cylinder, all right, off of that tight end, all right? Rather you running in true 11 personnel or you go 12 personnel and you get one on the ball tight end and a wing, okay, and creating that force, on that structure. All right, we'll get to some film a little bit, all right? Kind of talk about inside zone here. Again, I'm going to go to the tight shot. Again, all right? All right, so they played an odd, technically, well, really we identified this as a 4-down front, all right? But again, something like all nod structure, all right, for us. We treated it as a 4-down front up front with this jack being walked up on the ball, okay? But again, right, our rules as a running back, all right, we're understanding, right? So we know we're running inside zone to the left here, all right? Technically, it's clear. On the right side, backside, all right, it's cloudy because we got a 4-eye with him being inside. So we always err on the side of caution. And we know we got a guy outside who's playing that C-gap defender, right? So inside zone, I'm talking about it first read, initial read to second, 1 to 2 right here, all right? Again, he's on the fast flow, on the fast side, right? Because he's in front of this combination going to the left. On the backside, okay, technically, we'll look at that and we'll be fast. Okay, because at the end of the day, right, we're getting this double from this guard, okay, and this center working here, all right, he's on that front of that combination, okay, so, all right, we're actually bringing it back, bringing it back because we bring the tight end to block split, all right, so backside backer shoots up out of there, he rolls back under the gap, all right, the front side backer, which is initial read, shoots the front side. So we got a chance for this ball to split, which it does. We're up on a safety. Okay, he's making a guy miss. And again, he's trying to get back going vertical. I talk about it all the time. Running backs got to understand, especially young backs. You got to understand too, all right? How fast can you get from 0 to 100 going straight? I talk about it all the time, all right? I tell guys all the time, the fastest point from A to point B, all right, is running straight. Okay, that's why I love guys who run track. But again, I don't want to see a whole bunch of zigzag. That's why you saw him try to bend his ball back, because he heard me enough times during practice saying, hey, the end zone is wider, okay? Super wide. There's no reason why you need to run a sprint to the pylon, which some guys like to do, which I get it. But at the same time, right, we can go score and make the job easier. So great job by this kid. All right. A couple places where I've been, we've ran inside zone, okay, from sidecar position. All right. And I'll go to the tight here. Okay. And we've actually ran it from the same side, right, to make it look like power read. Okay. So again, we're technically running inside zone here to the left. All right. And we're actually, well, really a split zone, but all in the same family. We're bringing back the tight end coming across. All right. So initially, right, I actually had to change his full read on this because of how the flow of where these linebackers were playing. So this will be your one, all right, fast side, excuse me, and this will be two on the backside, right? And so his eyes were actually started on 1 to 2, okay? We knew in combination it actually helped with the flow because we were getting so much fallback. So I told him during the week, I said, man, this ball's got a chance to roll back because of how they're going to play this based upon we've ran so much outside zone coming from sidecar. We ran so much power read, right? You can make it look, all right, identical of the same, all right, which actually helps the combination blocks from our center and our guard here, okay? And he understands staying in phase, all right, knowing that this ball could come all the way back, which he does. He cuts the inside shoulder of a defender, falls full of the 15, 20-yard game. All right. And again, it's imperative that you teach that read for the backs of getting them to understand reading linebacker flow, because a lot of times when guys teach reading D linemen, especially on inside zone, their eyes get buried and they don't see that linebacker that's working over the top to try to get to, that where he's actually fitting at. Sorry. So, again, I've always talked about it all the time. I want to read secondary, and third level reads when it comes to being a running back. Right. And I want to trust my 5 up front and making sure that I understand all I got to do is set my target. All right. And actually be on my right steps and my landmark, and my combinations will take care of itself because I'll put that backer on. Okay. Again, here we go. We love this play out of here. All right. Side zone with this. Out of sidecar. All right. And what you really want to do on this is you're coming flat, coming across. You want to punch that foot, right? And really trying to get vertical with your shoulders coming back towards the A gap. Because again, we're running this through. It's an A gap run. We actually get a whole lot of movement and flow over the top, right? Based upon us making it look like power read and running outside zone. Okay. And displace these linebackers, which makes the combination blocks a lot easier. All right. Boom. He presses his foot. He stays inside. Now, big thing is, okay, you want to hug the combination, right? You want to hug the combination as a running back. Stay as tight as I possibly can. Again, I talk about it in my room all the time. I want to be able to take the wallet out the back pocket, all right, of either that center or that play side guard that I'm working to on the front side of the combination on inside zone, okay? And now I'm one-on-one with this safety, and now it's time for me to go earn my scholarship, okay? And again, 8 to 10-yard gain, all right? We'll take it on first down. Now, we do run sidecar out of the offset in normal position, right? We actually bring the tight end back and split zone here, okay? Again, wanting to understand, all right? Initial read, okay? Sorry, my camera's a little jumpy, but first read is this backer here. Second read is here, okay? Trying to get him to displace. He overshoots this gap. We want to stay in phase with our center. All right. He's as tight as he can and getting to the heels. Okay. He sees, hey, I know this linebacker worked and fell back on the slow side. All right. Fast on the front side. Okay. That linebacker was fast and shot over the top. Now I'm up here. I'm staying inside. Now I'm one-on-one on this safety. Now I got to go earn my scholarship. All right. Again, we go back to it on the inside zone from the same side, using it as flat read, okay? Again, we're still 1 to 2 on the front side, reading the front side combination. As you can see, 18's pointing back, okay? They're playing back on the combination. He knows 15 shoots himself out of the gap. He comes now on the slow side, right? 18, okay, works back. Ball's got a chance to roll. He understands that. He rolls it all the way back. Now, I mean, you heard my voice on this. We got to make guys miss on the corner, but at the end of the day, right, we'll still take the 10-yard gain. But again, it's putting ourselves in conflict, or excuse me, defenders in conflict. All right, based upon understanding our flow. All right, based upon working in sync with our combinations. Okay, run inside zone here. Out of the offset. All right. So our eyes initially, okay. Technically, we should really be on 33, all right, because this is technically a one backer box with how far 49 so displaced upon out of there. Okay. And we get them on the motion, going across, orbit motions. Again, that's safety going away. Okay. And now, all right, we get this boot sink down in our combination. He shoots over to the top. All right. Ball comes out the rack. We'll move into duo now. Okay. All right. Just to show you guys a little bit different run scheme. But again, I said I treat it the same way, reading that front side backer to backside backer. So technically in this look, if you actually go back, to the wide look, I told them all week, I said, hey, this defense, they boss over on 3x1, right? So if we ran duo, okay, same side on the right side here, okay, and we knew nickel, Mike, Will's bossed over. There's your safety. All right. Completely bossed over, right? And so there's nobody home in this open gap over here. There's nobody. All right. There's no one home over here. Okay. And I told them, I said, man, a lot of times what they're doing is they're bumping over to this 3x1, okay, and lining up completely like this. So he knew I could take this ball back right now because, again, they had so much flow. They were shooting. If I go to the tight here, 49, who's getting blocked by 8, right? He shoots this front side gap. Backside backer shoots the front side. He knew we could take this ball back. All right. Now I'm one-on-one with this safety. Now I got to turn him in and track me and go run. Okay. He gets on the field, and we end up getting this ball out of being backed up all the way into the middle of the field. Okay. But again, those are pre-snap indicators to understand why I choose to read linebacker flow. All right. Because a lot of times their body position and demeanor, especially when they're being bossed over, is to get them the back to understand where he's got to set this ball in relation to where the combination is going and where, where we're aiming point, our aiming point is at, from a line standpoint. All right. Running the same thing. Duo here. Now we run this at Bryant. Okay. All right. His eyes are only on 38 here. All right. He's understanding, hey, we're so heavy deep down inside in the goal line. He's going to shoot this front side combination, which he does. All right. He understands nobody home. Roll this ball back. Okay. Now we're going right, to the left side, and we end up scoring a touchdown. We're on duo here at Norfolk State. Okay. Again, we see 33 takes himself out of the gap. Our eyes should be on 49. All right, setting this into the combination, getting vertical. Okay, his shoulders should be vertical, more square. All right, to try to bait this linebacker into the gap. Okay, but again, based upon the combination, right, he shoots this backside, which turns into the slow flow. All right, we end up splitting this ball, which it does. Okay, would love to see him finish through here, but again, we'll take the 5 to 6 yard gain. All right, running duo downhill. Again, we run it again. All right, here at Bryant. 6 takes himself out of the gap. 38's on the backside. Okay. We end up actually staying in phase with this center here. Ball splits. All right. We walk into the end zone. Last one here. All right. We run duo. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Inside zone. Here, going back to it. All right. His eyes should be on 18. Yeah, I believe 18. That's the number. All right. And he should be working in phase with this front side of this combination. Okay. He shoots and goes backside. He knows that it's a one backer box. All right. You can see his his shoulders are 45 degrees. Okay. This is the split what we're talking about. He ends up setting this ball where it needs to go on the inside hip, staying in phase with that center. Okay. Now he's one-on-one with the safety. Now we got to go miss. We end up getting a 5 to 6 yard gain. And so again, all right, I think it's imperative just teaching that's kind of how I go through inside zone and duo. Teaching linebacker flow, our run reads, all right, and where our eyes need to be in our teaching progression. Okay, it's paid off dividends for me, and I've had ton of explosives in the run game because of that. Again, the different mesh points that we use, that I've used throughout my career, and also and been a part of in offenses. But just most importantly, setting their eyes of where they need to go and matching there with their steps. Getting them to understand just where the backers are displaced based upon how they line up pre-snap versus our combination blocks, whether it be zone or duo. It'll take you a long way, and a system that I believe in, a system that's paid off dividends, like I said, and continues to work. So that's kind of how we teach here at Presbyterian College.
Coach, that's all great stuff, and especially for me as a defensive guy, just seeing how you teach progression and obviously, the movement up front is key, like you referenced the offensive line and getting movement and making your guys vision and so they have a definitive cut. Regardless of what play you're running, you give them a target, and I thought I wrote a bunch of stuff down. So. All right, so I'm doing this with I started this last week. Um, just giving you like a random question at the end of this thing. So if it's, let's say, 4th and 4, all right, defense has no timeouts, you ought to win the game. Um, give me a backfield, give me a fullback, a true fullback,
Okay.
and a tailback to go get those 4 yards to win you the game. Could be from any era, any era.
Um, Fullback and a back to go get me those yards.
Yep.
All right, so my favorite running back is Adrian Peterson.
Okay.
So he's gonna be my tailback. Um, and my fullback, I'm gonna go Mike Allstott.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Mike Allstott.
Yep.
So
Yep. Okay.
I
Cool, man.
need
Yeah.
I need those 4 yards, coach.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. So I just I write stuff down as you're talking, and depending on position you coach, I just come up with the random at the end of it. But coach, I really appreciate you taking the time. We worked through some technical difficulties, but as always,
Absolutely.
we saw the press man, and we checked to the fade. You
Check to
know,
the fade.
and we're making it happen. But I appreciate you taking the time. I'm looking forward to obviously getting getting to know you more, and obviously building our relationship, for our guys down here in Naples. But what you're doing is great. Obviously, we're all in the coaching world to affect the lives of young men and make them better people.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate the heck out of you, and have a great rest of the weekend, man. Looking forward to getting to know you even more.
Man, you too, man. I appreciate you. Like I said, this platform is awesome, and this definitely won't be the last time I'll be on here, man. So I enjoyed it, man. Thank you.
All right, coach.
All right.